building that ability to flirt with life, as Charlie Hupert from Charisma on Command says. You are building the ability to just be friendly and connect with people through the eye contact, through the smiles, through the good morning. And whether it's an old man at the grocery store or it's a beautiful young woman who you're interested in, practicing that flirting with life has been huge for me. And I think it's such a good thing for people to practice because best case scenario, you get more charismatic and you can talk to people. Worst case scenario, you make someone else's day a little bit better because you smile at them.
Welcome to Rejection Rehab, the only podcast out there specifically designed to help you get over the fear of rejection and build lasting confidence. Now, each week I interview an irrepressible human being who's gone through their fair share of rejection, but overcome it and built lasting confidence. This week, it gives me enormous pleasure to introduce you to Gregory Benedict. Gregory was just a regular guy in finance until one day he learned that the number one regret people have on their deathbed is, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. He's quit his job in finance to fully embrace his guiding mantra, the universe rewards bold action. And since then has become a life and leadership coach, a speaker speaking on TEDx about how everything you want might just be on the other side of fear, and has become a bit of an expert on rejection and bold action, completing Jia Jing's 100-day rejection challenge where you put yourself in a position to be rejected every single day for 100 days, and finding the woman of his dreams in the process by staring rejection right in the face. You're going to want to hear the story. Gregory Benedict, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Tom. I am so excited to be here, and that might be the best intro I've ever heard.
Well, thank you. I mean, my intros are only as good as my guests, so thank you for being so fascinating. And let's go back. Let's go right back to the beginning, because we don't all start with confidence. We don't all start being able to really face rejection, without being scared. Let's go back to when you were really not having a good time in your job in finance, because I feel you took that bold action to quit your job. A lot of people out there are doing jobs that they really don't like, but they're kind of scared about the next step. Same deal with relationships. They're in a relationship they might not like. How did you, find the courage to go off into the great unknown?
It is such a good question. And I'll just highlight what you said there, which is I was not always bold. I was not always courageous. And for a lot of my life, especially when I worked in finance, I call myself Finance Greg. I was quite sad, lost, miserable. And
Finance Greg.
The thing about my situation was that at one point in my life, I actually thought that was my dream. So I studied finance undergrad. I really enjoyed it. I had a great teacher. My dream was to work in private equity and make it and be successful. And once I found my way there, it started off really good. I was bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. And then slowly, over the course of 2 years, that job, that industry just really chipped away at me. And I started to feel so empty, so unfulfilled, so uninspired. I started to ask myself, is this it? Is this really what my life amounts to? I just sit behind a computer screen all day and crunch numbers and do financial modeling. So for me, it was a long process of emptying out. And a lot of people think that I had this inspired moment where I was like, yes, I'm feeling courageous. I'm feeling so bold. I'm ready to quit my job. And really, it was the opposite of that. It was the dark, the negative, the pain. Ultimately, it was the pain of staying the same and the fear that I was going to wake up in 20, 30 years and hate myself. It was that pain that actually motivated me enough to make the jump, to trust in the universe for the first time in my life, and to take that bold action.
I think that's amazing. You're almost kind of preempting kind of the feeling of regret for not doing something. So you're like, if I don't do this, I'm going to feel so much regret, just like that number one, regret on people's deathbed. And I think that's super smart. But one of the things that you talked about in your TED talk that I think is quite important to bring up here is that fortune favors the bold. I know that unfortunately is an expression that you or I came up with. It's an old expression, but can you talk a little bit about that and how the universe really does reward bold action?
Yes. So I always loved that quote growing up. Fortune favors the bold. It just sounded cool. It's succinct. It's powerful. And I started to notice that in my life, every time I took bold action, I seemed to immediately be rewarded. I would get out of my comfort zone. I would say yes to something. And then literally 10 seconds, 10 minutes later, something cool would happen in my life. And I started to just pick up on that pattern. So I asked myself, and I love words, I'm kind of a nerd. I asked myself, what if this quote that I love, fortune favors the bold, what if it isn't just a cool quote and rather a formula for how the universe works? And then, of course, I wrote it out on a sticky note and I broke it down and I was like, okay, I love stoicism. We can divide life into what we can control and what we can't control. I was like, okay, well, we can't really control what happens to us in life. That's probably the fortune piece. But we can control how bold we are being. And then I came up with this hypothesis. I was like, if we turn up the boldness in our lives by consistently, intentionally getting out of our comfort zone, then I think what happens to us in life or our fortune will also increase. And that led me on a big adventure that I know we're going to talk about, but it was really thinking about the quote and realizing that maybe, just maybe, this is a formula instead of just a quote.
And I think, that formula, I mean, you've really lived that formula. I want to get into it. I think there's two really exciting parts of this formula that have worked for you. One has been in your personal life, and then one has been in your professional life. And those are kind of, I think, the biggest types of rejection as well, personal and professional. I really want you to tell everyone how you met your now girlfriend, because that was really facing potential rejection right in the face, looking it dead in the eye and showing a lot of courage and confidence to do what you did. And I think a lot of people are afraid to go up to people in real life, whether it's someone who they find attractive, whether it's asking someone for help for something in real life. Please tell us a story about how you met your girlfriend. It's a goodie.
Yes, and you're actually one of the few people who gets it right. She is just my girlfriend. She moved in with me, so we're definitely progressing towards engagement and marriage and all the good stuff. But everyone assumes that we're married already because not many people would be bold enough or maybe dumb enough to do a TED Talk about someone who they're not married to yet. So I was
shows confidence.
Exactly, or stupidity. We're not sure which one. I was at breakfast with a friend of mine on a Saturday morning, and as we're sitting down to eat, I make eye contact with this woman across the room. And for the first time in my entire life, I made eye contact with her and I felt something. I had this wave of weird energy go through my body. And I was like, whoa, okay, that was strange. I've never believed in love at first sight, but I had this feeling. And as I sat down, I was like, I don't know why, but I need to speak to her. So if she is here by the time I finish eating my food, I'm going to go talk to her. And that sounded like a great idea, but it was complicated by the fact that she was sitting at a table with another man across from her and a woman. So there was 3 of them at the table. I eat my breakfast and they're still there at the end. So I go, oh man, I actually have to do this. I got our receipt, I flipped it over and I asked the waiter for a pen and I wrote my name and phone number on the back of it. And then I stand up from the table and at this point my brain is like screaming at me, what are you doing? Sit back down, stop this, please, for the love of God, stop. And my palms are sweating, my heart is pounding. And it was in that moment that I decided I have to go for it. I have to walk across the room. So I walk across this crowded restaurant, and when I get to their table, the man sitting across from her was like mid-story. He was saying something. And I didn't want to just be that guy who comes in and like talks over him. So I look at him first and I go, hey man, so sorry, can I interrupt for a moment? And he's super confused. He actually, I know him now, and he thought I worked at the cafe and I was telling them that they had to go because they had been there for so long. So he looks up at me and he's like, okay. And then this is like, I don't know where it came from. I just had this inspiration and this phrase, this smooth sentence dropped into my head. And so I turn to this Wonder Woman and I say, hey, you're really cute, which means you probably have a boyfriend. But if you don't, here's my phone number. And I slowly slid this receipt with my phone number on it across the table. And the best part about this story is that as I'm sliding it across the table, she has this nervous energy and she blurts out, I don't have a boyfriend. And in that moment, I just laugh. I smile, I say, great, have a good day. And I turn and I walk away. And I'll pause there because it was a beautiful moment that was so scary.
I have so much to respond, and we'll leave people on a bit of a cliffhanger to see what happened next. But a couple of things that I want to kind of double down on here. I love the fact that you started with an apology. I think that's always good when you introduce yourself or interject into someone's, what they're doing in their day, and you say, look, I'm so sorry to interrupt. And you did that to the whole table. I think that's a really good thing to do. And it starts, like, if you start something with an apology, I always feel that gives you a little bit of, first of all, a foot in the door, but a polite foot in the door, and a little bit of maybe even leverage, because they're like, oh, this person's, apologetic. Okay, we'll let them come in. And then, secondly, I think that the way that you said it was very nice as well. You said, you probably, you were very self-deprecating. You're like, and I feel like if you are self-deprecating like that, not coming in like a bull in a china shop, that's just a lovely like way to show that you're basically not arrogant. And so I think, if you say something like, if you're not spoken for, or, I'm sure that the likelihood of you being, in a relationship is probably sky high, but on the off chance you're not, I'd love to ask you out. I think that was just like beautiful as well. And thirdly, I've got to give you like so much credit, because it's one thing asking someone out in real life who you've never met before. It's another thing doing it in front of two people, one of whom could have been her boyfriend, it's a guy. I mean, or that girl could have been her girlfriend. You don't know like orientation, you know nothing. And that shows, I think, an extra level of confidence. And I feel like that's like expert, confidence level. I want to ask you, how did you just think, okay, well, I'll put all that stuff to the side, and I could be insulting like at least one person here by asking out their girlfriend. How did you put that to the side?
So many different ways I could answer this, but this was part of me testing the hypothesis that fortune favors the bold and that the universe rewards bold action. Because I had been thinking about that, and this was like the big first opportunity to test it. So I told myself, regardless what happens next, I'm going to take 10 seconds of terrified action, and either this is going to go terribly, I might get punched in the face by this guy, who knows what's going to happen, and I'll have a really good story, or the off 1 in 1 million chance that she doesn't have a boyfriend and she texts me. It will also make a great story, but things will benefit me. And that is kind of what allowed me to do it. It was more of, we'll talk about this later, I'm sure, but I'm really big on who you are being and who you are becoming. And it was an opportunity, regardless of the outcome, I could take this bold action. And the moment I stood up from my table and walked across the room was already a success in my eyes.
I think that's wonderful. A couple of things I want to talk about here. First of all, I think that when someone's trying to get into maybe speaking to someone who they've never spoken to or asking someone out, I think that if you've never ever done it before, there are little things that you can do to build up your confidence to get that, kind of like exposure therapy. And I've talked about this before. Like, one is just making eye contact with random strangers when you're, walking to work or walking to, your favorite smoothie spot, whatever it is, just outside in the real world. Then it's saying good morning to people, good afternoon, or just like saying hi randomly. And then, once you've, done that, and you've also like, randomly started conversations with strangers who you don't fancy, you're just like, oh, I think you've got like great shoes or whatever, to the random person. You kind of build confidence slowly but surely to the point where you're like, okay, if there's someone that I find attractive, I'd love to go and try this in real life. And then it becomes less scary because you've exposed yourself to various different, scary scenarios. And then you give yourself a slightly more scary scenario, which is asking that person out who you fancy. And then even more scary is what you did, which is doing it in front of, two people. And I think the one thing that, that I think should maybe help people asking someone out in front of other people and you don't know whether they're in a relationship is, if you find out that they're in a relationship with someone who is literally in that circle and they've heard you ask them out, you can compliment both by saying, oh my gosh, you guys are so lucky, to be with each other, and you're a beautiful couple. You could say something to compliment both of them. And if I had a girlfriend and someone asked my girlfriend out in front of me, I would take that as a huge compliment because they think that she's attractive and I think that she's attractive. And so I think it's super that you did that. So I just want to like double tap on that.
And if I could just jump in and maybe triple tap on this, what you're talking about, building that ability to flirt with life, as Charlie Hupert from Charisma on Command says, you are building the ability to just be friendly and connect with people through the eye contact, through the smiles, through the good morning. And whether it's an old man at the grocery store or it's a beautiful young woman who you're interested in, practicing that flirting with life has been huge for me. And I think it's such a good thing for people to practice because best case scenario, you get more charismatic and you can talk to people. Worst case scenario, you make someone else's day a little bit better because you smile at them.
Oh, absolutely. And making other people's days better makes your day better. Like making other people feel good makes you feel good. And, I just want to go back to, something that you've talked about. When you went up and asked her out, the worst thing that could happen would be that she said no, or that was her boyfriend. And then you say, well, you're a beautiful couple. And then you go on your merry way. And then you get on with the rest of your life and you have no regret because you've given it a go. That's the absolute worst thing. And maybe you've even gained a bit of confidence because you've done something a little bit out of your comfort zone. But then the upside is it could change your life for the better for the rest of your life. You could meet the one for you, which I hope you have. It seems like you have.
Yeah.
Or you could meet your future employer, as it happened with me through talking to a really awesome lady in a checkout aisle of a supermarket. You could meet your future best friend. Amazing changes can happen in your life if you do take that bold action. And I want to commend you for it. And let's find out. Okay, so did she text you?
She texted me back later that night. Okay. And I say this all the time, but those 10 seconds of terrified action, they brought me the best romantic relationship of my life. And what's cool about that is that meeting my girlfriend was just the beginning.
That is awesome. 10 seconds and then like a lifetime of awesomeness. That is just, it sounds like a bit like a Hollywood romance. And I know not all romances, start like this, but it is such a cool way that you put yourself in the driving seat and you made it happen, and you should be incredibly proud. And that's what I want people to do. It's just like, grab the bull by the horns and go for it. You've got absolutely nothing to lose. Speaking of nothing to lose, and speaking of rejection, which is what this podcast is all about, and getting over the fear of it and building lasting confidence, you did the 100-day rejection challenge. Now, I want you to talk about a little bit about where you got the challenge from. I know Jia Jing wrote the book. Is it Rejection
Proof?
Rejection Proof. And, a little bit about what the challenge is, what you did during this 100-day rejection challenge where you put yourself through getting potentially rejected for 100 days straight. Tell us this story.
So I read this book, Rejection Proof by Jia Jiang, and it's amazing. I highly recommend everyone listening, go get it, read it. And I read it 3-4 years ago, and I loved it. I felt so inspired. I wanted to take action on it. And then, unfortunately, I did what most people do, is I put the book back on the shelf because I probably had a reading goal to hit, and I had to get to the next book. And then 2 years ago, I reread it, and I felt those same feelings, that energy, that inspiration. And I was like, oh, wait, I've been here before. I have 10 seconds, 10 minutes to act on this. Otherwise, the same thing is going to happen. So I decided in that moment, I'm going to go on my own 100-day challenge. I'm going to pull a lot from Jia, and I'm going to make it all about rejection. But for me, it's going to be about taking bold action and making bold asks. And if people say yes, great. It's not like I have to go and get rejected the next day to make up for it. I just wanted to see what happens if I continuously live like the universe rewards bold action, and I keep testing that hypothesis because it worked with my girlfriend, and I was like, holy cow, I can't believe that actually worked. Let me go test this hypothesis like a scientist 100 different times and see what happens in my life. So that's what led me on the big journey.
I think that's awesome. Okay, so from your TED Talk, I did hear a couple of the rejection stories, and I'd love for you to talk about, the first time I know you knocked on someone's door just to ask them to go on a walk. Run us through that and run us through a couple of the actual rejection stories that you went through, because they're kind of interesting.
So the first day I knocked on a neighbor's door who hadn't met me before, and I said, hey, do you want to go for a walk with me around the neighborhood? They said no. They did not like that idea, but it gave me this huge rush of energy, and it made me realize two things. One, that the moment between knocking on a stranger's door and waiting for them to answer, that's like the longest period of time in history. And when they open the door and they look at you and they're like, what are you doing on my porch? That is so scary, but so exhilarating. I felt more alive than I had in literally years. So on day 4 of the challenge, I knocked on another stranger's door. And this time, a little context, backstory to this is that I made up a rule for myself. Anytime I thought of a bold ask, because I was constantly thinking like, okay, I have to do 100 of these. What should I do? Anytime I thought of one that made me just laugh out loud, it was so outrageous, I immediately put that on the list. So I had this idea. I was like, what if I knocked on a stranger's door and asked if I could jump in their swimming pool? So I'm on Google Maps. I'm searching around the neighborhood to see who has a swimming pool. And I knock on this guy's door, and I'm 28 at the time, 28 with a great mustache as I have now. and I'm wearing a swimsuit and holding a beach towel. And he opens the door and I go, "Hi, my name's Gregory, and I was wondering if I could jump in your swimming pool." And this guy just looks at me like I have 4 heads. I'm starting to panic, thinking he's gonna like tackle me or punch me in the face. And he bursts into laughter. And he laughs for a while, and then he goes, "Sure, I don't see why not." And then that was when I kind of told him about the adventure I was on. We ended up, go for it.
No, go ahead, keep going.
I was just gonna say, I walk around the back. He's like, meet me back by the pool. Let's do this. I give him my phone. I'm like, "Hey, can you film like a 10-second video of this? I'm like on this challenge." So he films a 10-second video of me jumping in the swimming pool. I post that on Instagram, and over the course of 2 weeks, it got over 350,000 views. And now this was such a blessing. On day 4 of this challenge, I now have literal thousands of people weighing in saying, "You should do this, you should do that, do this dare next." And it was so fun and helpful to have that support and encouragement, and to also have these ideas of what to do next. So one of the ones that I didn't get to tell you about that I want to, because I think you're going to laugh out loud, is I was watching a sunset by the beach, this place called Fletcher Cove. And I asked this guy if he could hold me up like Simba in The Lion King, if he could hold me up at sunset. And the craziest part about this is he looks at me and he goes, "How much do you weigh?" He doesn't say anything like, "Dude, what the hell? Get away from me." He literally goes, "How much do you weigh?" And I go, 175. And he goes, "Can't do it." And I had so many instances like that where I would ask the most crazy thing, and instead of someone saying, "No, get away from me, what's wrong with you?" they would literally just go into problem solving mode, and they'd be like, "Yes or no, tell me more."
Like, I would if it were physiologically possible, but you're just slightly over what I can typically bench. So
Super funny.
Oh
And then
my
I was
gosh.
like, we just, gave him a high five, and we had this little moment together.
I think that's awesome. Can you just tell us, like, what was your worst rejection and what was your worst, like, acceptance? What was, like, the best and worst experience of these 100 days of rejection?
A huge lesson was that none of the rejections were actually that bad. Like you alluded to it earlier, the worst thing that can happen is nothing. Someone maybe says like a harsh word to you, and then you're on your way. But the best thing that can happen is everything. Like literally anything you want in life is on that other side of fear. And if you have the courage to ask for it, you never know what's possible. So the worst 2 that come to mind, I asked a guy if I could borrow $100, and he said, "What are you, crazy?" And then just kind of walked away. And I was like, okay, maybe I am crazy. And the other one, this guy who had just gotten off his road cycle, he was biking. He's like in one of those cycling spandex suits. I walk up to him and I go, "Hey man, would you want to do 1 minute of uninterrupted eye contact with me?" And he just goes, "What the hell is wrong with you?" And then I was just like, "Oh, sorry, whatever." And then I walked away. So those were the 2 worst.
Wow.
I mean,
1 minute of uninterrupted eye contact with a stranger is quite intense. I'll give you that. But did you get someone to do that?
No, that was one where I was like, no one's going to do this. That was when I was leaning in. I was like, okay, I've gotten some yeses. Let me just get a no. Like, I know this is going to be a no. Some of the best, definitely jumping in the pool was amazing because he got involved. He films me in the pool. He like turned around the camera and like cheered me on. And like everyone on the internet was like, "That guy's amazing." So that one was really cool. Another one of my favorites, just because it was so silly, was asking for a discount at the post office for men with incredibly good mustaches. And again, the person across from me just burst into laughter, and she gave me 10% off. And I was shipping a bunch of books, so I saved $4. And
that was fantastic.
It was the moments when I got to make the other person laugh, and we co-created this beautiful little moment in this story that not only I got to tell, but you know that they're going back to their family at dinner and being like, "You won't believe what this random guy asked me today." And that was so fun.
Who knew that there were 10% discounts for great moustaches? And you do have a great moustache. I will definitely agree with that.
Thank you.
My pleasure. So you have on your website a kind of a playbook for people who might be stuck thinking about trying to do the next thing in their career, relationship, life in general. And I really want you to kind of tell people who are just thinking about, okay, I need to get out of this, because I'm going to say what it was when I read it. It's define your new identity, design your dream life, take bold action. It's kind of 3 simple steps. It seems easier said than done. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, and I'll actually work backwards because the simplest is taking bold action. If you're feeling stuck, if you are unsure what to do next, the best thing you can do is just get out there into the world, get in motion, make people laugh, make yourself uncomfortable, because the universe rewards bold action. And even if you're taking action in a direction that's not ultimately where you're going to go, it's going to shake things up. You're going to meet the right people. You're going to start to change your own identity from someone who might be risk averse and timid to, wow, I can't believe I did this thing yesterday. Maybe I am bold. So that one is super simple, super important. The whole define your new identity and design your dream life, that really leverages behavior change and everything about identity that James Clear talks a lot about. Every action you take is a vote for the identity of the person you want to become. And so when I work with clients, we get really clear on, before we go out and like set all these goals and do all these things, who do you want to become? What is the vision of the person you want to become? And then what would that person do? So we almost reverse engineer the actions through first figuring out the identity of who you want to become, and then the design your dream life. And I know I just made this so confusing because I went step 3, step 1, now I'm doing step 2. But designing your dream life is so freaking important, because going back to the regrets of the dying, like I want to get to the end of my life and know that I played full out, that I had all of the experiences I wanted to have, I created the memories, I had the impact. So when we design your dream life, we figure out a dreams list. What are the things that you really want and maybe need to do before you die? Let's make a list of these. It's like your bucket list, but on steroids, because it's much more meaningful. We get really deep in it. And then we go start doing those things. Because I think I have this philosophy that everything we want in life, the happiness, the meaning, the fulfillment, the aliveness. I say this on my website, but we all know that money can't buy happiness. That's been proven again and again and again. And these things that we want, they can't be obtained directly, but rather they come to us when we have the courage to go after our dreams. So dreaming and bold action together, those two are like the biggest levers to pull, I think, in becoming fulfilled, finding meaning, finding purpose, finding the love of your life. It's all through that.
Beautifully said. And I just want to take a text message that you sent me yesterday, because I don't even know what you're about to tell me after this. You wrote, "Holy cow, do I have an exciting update to share with you on the podcast tomorrow. Literal proof that the universe rewards bold action and has our backs. Crazy update that just happened today. Please tell us about this."
And I wish we had more time, because the reason why I say the universe rewards bold action is because I have seen too many instances in my own life where things that should not happen from a probability standpoint happen, where you meet the right person at the right time and this crazy thing happens. I've seen it in my life and in my clients' lives. And this is another example. Literally one day before I'm supposed to come on here and talk about this, I get a text. I've been working on this for months and months and months. And today I get to speak with Jia Jiang and tell him how impactful his book was, how it changed my life, that I gave a literal TED talk because his work inspired me so much. So I'm literally calling him later today and I'm going to get to talk to him.
That is fantastic. I mean, he's like the rejection god.
He is.
So, I mean, that is fantastic. I would love to put in a good word for me if you don't mind. I'd love to have him on the podcast. But you know, with any luck, one day I will. So, many congratulations. I mean, that is fantastic. Are you going to be up on stage with him?
No, he's on a road trip today, and
Okay.
I got connected through a friend of a friend, and I've again been trying to get a hold of him forever. And he responded, and he's like, "I'm on a road trip today. Call me."
Well, I hope you guys end up on the road together, because I think you'd be a great double act.
It would be so fun. And like it feels like this beautiful Hollywood full circle moment where I went on a podcast when I was on day 19 of the challenge. And I was like, yeah, someday down the road, I'm going to get to meet Jia Jiang, and I'm going to get to look him in the eyes and say, "Thanks, man. Like, you changed my life. And I just want you to know how impactful your work has been for me."
Well, that's fantastic. I'm so glad you're going to get that opportunity. It just shows if you put yourself out there, you never know fortune favors the bold.
Yes.
Okay, so as we come towards the end of this podcast, we could talk for hours, I know, but we have to keep it short, sharp, and snappy for our audience. What's your favorite book and what's your favorite movie?
Favorite book, I'm going to give you 2. Atomic Habits by James Clear. It is that good. If you haven't read it, read it. I put it off for forever because I was like, can't be that good. I know how to do habits, blah, blah, blah. Read it. It's amazing. And then 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman.
What's that one about?
4,000 Weeks is the average human lifespan, and it's called 4,000 Weeks Time Management for Mortals. And again, someone sent me this book and I was like, oh, I can't read another productivity book. It is anti-productivity. He talks about how you're never going to have it all figured out, and you're going to die one day and you're going to have a full email inbox, and that's okay.
Oh my gosh, that quite a morbid thought, but yeah, he's accurate.
Yep.
Okay, favorite movie?
The Dark Knight is definitely my favorite movie. I love Batman and I love Christopher Nolan.
Love it. What do you think is the whole purpose of us being here, meaning of life? Like, why are we on this planet? What's the purpose?
You asking that question is why I like you so much, and I know we're going to be great friends. This is one of my favorite questions to think about, and short answer is I have no idea. Long answer is I really think it's about helping people. And for me, it feels like helping people achieve their dreams, because a dream has so much baked into it. It's what you want to do. It's who you want to do it with. It's this highest level of your potential. So back to helping people. That's why we're here.
Love it. Best advice you've ever received, best advice you've ever given. It can be the same if you want.
Best advice I've ever received, I think, comes from someone I call my messy mentor. She is unafraid to take messy, imperfect action. And she has taught me that you learn the thing. Let me say that differently. You learn the lesson you need in order to do the thing by actually doing the thing. So no amount of research, planning, forecasting will actually give you the tools you need to do it. You just need to go do it, and you learn in real time what you need.
I think, yeah, you've said, take action before you're ready.
Yes.
And I think that's a really great way of doing it sometimes, because I also think that sometimes you need to get competence before you get confidence. But I certainly think that there are times where if you don't jump in, you're never actually going to end up doing it.
100%.
And finally, your favorite quote.
Again, I have to go with two because I'm a quote junkie. I have
That's
so
all right.
many. One that I say in the TED Talk that is like right up there at the top is life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's courage. So if you are courageous, your life will just open up. If you're timid and shy, your life is going to shrink down. So that's a favorite one. And then Seneca has a quote, where you arrive does not matter as much as what sort of person you are when you arrive there.
We have to end on that. I mean, that was just so beautiful. I can't say anything that can follow that. I mean, following Seneca is an impossible task. But I just want to say, Gregory, it has been such a pleasure having you on. You are such an inspiration. And I encourage everyone to watch Gregory's TED Talk. It's fantastic. How can they find it and how can they find you?
If you watch the TED Talk, you'll see a link to my website in the description. And you can go on my website, check it out. You can find me on LinkedIn at Gregory Russell Benedict. I would love to connect and chat and hear what bold action and dreams you have.
Thank you so much, Gregory Benedict. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.